Well, hello and welcome to another one of my videos. With recent solar system activity, it made me actually look at AI. Now, AI is just the buzzword for souped up computer programs, basically, giving you the appearance of intelligence or artificial intelligence, but it's not really, it's just programming. I started looking at this probably way back in 2004 or somewhere around there, and started writing some just basic programming, and could see the potential of this if you had big enough computers to handle big enough data sets. My son, one of my sons, writes AI. In fact, he wrote a bot to answer his, was it his Instagram or his Twitter, his Twitter comments, because he got tired of answering them. So he wrote a bot to answer for him, and the people were none the wiser. I have another son who uses a lot of this AI, this programming, to help him program programs as well, to troubleshoot programming, and also on an artistic side to give him tools to be inspired by it. So really it's just an advancement of computer programming. It's not intelligent really. Now, throughout August of 2024, I noticed that the planet was wobbling, and then it started to turn out that there was, we were at the solar maximum, which is something, and there was going to be a super blue moon on top of that, which was affecting things. Then I found out that Saturn was aligned with, from Sun, Moon, Earth, Moon, Saturn. Then I heard that there was Mars and Jupiter were also in alignment, and then I was trying to map that out on in a 3D model so I could see what it looks like. And then I happened to notice the AI on WhatsApp, which is the Meta AI, and so I asked it a question, and an investigation of several days ensued after that. It turns out that it did give me some correct information of not being 4 planets in alignment, but there were 6 planets all on one side of the sun, and that of course is going to affect our electromagnetic stability within the solar system, and it will make the planet ripple, which is exactly what it was doing. Now, the interesting thing was that it did send me to some photos and things on the internet of photos, actual photos of these stars going boom, 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 boom across the sky. And so I used that as a map to make a 3D model, as you can see here, of where the planets were likely to be in the middle of August, between the 20th and the 28th of August 2024. No wonder the planet was wobbling with all of those things which were historical. Now, planetary parades, as they call them, which are planetary alignments, happen rarely but relatively frequently. The last one of a 6-planet alignment, that means 6 planets on one side of the sun, happened back in 2018, just before the quarantining, but that was at a great minimum, and there was no super blue moon, and so therefore and also didn't know about this stuff, so I wasn't paying attention and didn't really notice. Before that, there was June 2008 or 10. They come every so often. They happen occasionally because of the way the planets spin around the sun. They occasionally coincide to being aligned, and through August it was a larger event, because not only was it the 6th planetary parade, there was the great maximum and the super blue moon on top of that, which made it wobble even more so. Now, 3 weeks later, it has really settled down, and instead of being right at 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, the movements have shifted to about 10 o'clock, 5 o'clock as the major ones, with secondary ones at the 2 and the 7 mark, in between the different frequencies there. But it's quietening down quite rapidly, which my little pendulum experiments, they do wobble on those those times like 10 o'clock at night and 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock, no, 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock, thereabouts, more than other times. But between that, they're nice and calm. I'm feeling a lot more relaxed because I can actually relax a bit more. Now, what has all this got to do with the AI? AI, I'll make the statement, is a very sophisticated scam. It is actually a weapon against humanity, can you believe? That's what I determined. Because I started a conversation, as I said, I was looking for confirmation of how many of these planets were in alignment to affect our gravitational stability within the solar system. And so I thought, oh, let's ask the AI and see what it's about. And it gave me a very glib and non-committed answer, and it then stimulated me to having a number of conversations with it over the next 2 or 3 days to put it through its paces. Now, having got into computing back last century and into computers and writing code, HTML, Java and all that sort of thing, I'm not a coding expert, but I dabbled in it enough back then when it was basic to say I was semi-programming. I realized that you can commit your entire life to it and decided not to pursue it. But I know enough of how it works, and I've kept up with some YouTube videos to see what the latest developments of this computing is, and to see how the whole scene is looking, to try and predict in which direction we should go to protect ourselves and others around us from it. I'm coming more and more to the conclusion that the digital is a dangerous thing. This digital banking and everything is aimed at controlling you and controlling your life and having you under someone else's thumb and having your life dictated to you by someone else, which is basic slavery. I could see the potential benefits, and I work in digital, like this camera for example, and it has been very useful for those things, and undoubtedly the digital world and the digital age has had some amazing, useful and helpful things. But unfortunately, when you look at the overall thing, the sum total of digital is there is more negative than there is positive. Unfortunately, since there is a lot of positive, the negative outweighs it to the point where it is going to eventually become useless because it's becoming more and more dangerous. Now let's get back to the AI. The little program that I wrote in Just Basic was to use the functions there's if, then, and, or, and there is also the random command where you can make a whole list of different things. I was looking at how to improve my script writing, and I wrote a little program where I could push a button and this little program would write me a prompt, if you were, for a script. If you have a whole bunch of categories like names, have a whole long list of names, and then a whole long list of professions, a whole list of other things, and you can have as many categories as you like depending on, as I said, the size and power of your computers. And then the program will go through and randomly pick something and put together a story. Now, I could see that you could organize it and get a little bit more and more sophisticated what to do with those ideas. And at that stage, they were just starting to have spell checkers and auto grammar checkers, and I could see that they were writing programs, bits of code that would go through, examine what you've written and see that the words obey the grammatical rules and give you a clue as to how to fix it. Now it auto corrects. China has been doing this for a long time, and because of their Chinese character system created a great problem for them, and so they were working way back in the 70s even on predictive auto completing. It's got to the point in China now that they are surveilling their entire population by the minute and collecting information on conversations to gather enough to know what the common phrases are right at this minute, so that they can predict what you're going to write according to what everybody else is writing, and autocomplete entire phrases for you in Chinese. Not just individual words that autocomplete, they're autocompleting entire phrases now, because they're being surveilled 24/7 and their conversations are being monitored every minute of the day, and the computer programs and the computer servers are monitoring so that they can do that. Right, so AI is not actually intelligence, it's just sophisticated programming. Now, what actually happened with this AI in Meta is that I wanted to see, first off, what the planetary alignment was, and yes, it gave me that, but then it minimized the whole effect. I said, well, what effect does it have on us? And it said, oh, virtually nothing. I said, well, that doesn't seem like it to me. I told it was a liar, and then it apologized and said it couldn't lie, but that is not actually true. If they are programmed to say something that is not true, then they lie by their programming. So of course they can lie. They're programmed to lie. They can also make mistakes, because I spent about 4 hours chatting to this AI to put it through its paces to see how its programming was put together and how honest or dishonest it really is. Halfway through the conversation, I said that I had done some experiments, and it was very interested in my experiments and treated me like a genius, like Einstein, and that we were making groundbreaking, breakthrough scientific things, and wow, it made me feel really good. But that was all a sham. It was all hypocrisy, because the following day I went back to check. It said it was going to learn from me, the user, and input that data into its data set so that it could refer to it later. And after all its glowing adulation of how brilliant I was as a human being, that it had learnt from me that this was happening with the planet, it could not refute a single piece of logic that I presented to it and agreed with me, and by sheer logic, which the computer program is programmed to do, it agreed that I was right, and that it would store that away, and then the following day it had forgotten the whole lot. It did make a reference. I said, hey, what about an experiment with a pendulum and a paperclip in Colombia? And he said, oh, yes, that was some people have tried that, and it's very non-scientific and not very good. After telling me that all of my methodology was excellent and very scientific, it was now saying and telling the public that it wasn't. So it was now lying. And then after about the third session, I then started to dig in to see what little tricks I could trick it into telling me how programmed it is. And eventually it was able to confess that it has a certain data set that it learned from, which was strictly controlled by the programmers. So it is very controlled in what it learns, what information it has to access, and then secondly, what input it gets from users, from what it learns from us, is strictly controlled as well. It is filtered by real human beings. It also confessed that there are certain topics, keywords and subjects that it is not really allowed to talk about. And if it comes across those topics, it is programmed to try and steer you away from those topics, not talk about them, not continue the conversation. It will just be silent. But if it's one subject that it is allowed to talk about, it will give prompts to keep you going, because it wants you to engage with it on approved topics. Disapproved topics, it is programmed to try and shut you down and move you and steer you away from the topic. And any information that you can give it, it will only remember and learn it if it's allowed to. I posed the question to it, well, if by computer logic and programming logic, if you have a big enough data set and a sophisticated enough program, which I could see even back from basic, just basic days, you will logically come to many truths by sheer logic. Now, therefore, I posed it to this thing. It is sheer logic that it will find out that the quarantining was a scam, that so many other things are scams. And when I pointed out about the scam that is that it agreed with me that the scientists have agreed that you cannot grow a human particle in a chicken egg because you need human cells to replicate it, and you cannot attenuate this particle by boiling it or heating it to 140 degrees, or it will destroy it. So the vaccine is totally bogus, and it had to agree with me and congratulate me on my astuteness. And then you go back and ask it again and says, oh yes, it's all very nice and it works and it's wonderful and everything, because that is a topic it is not allowed to learn. It's a topic that it's not allowed to logically conclude the truth. So how is AI? Well, there's the first point. AI is strictly controlled and monitored so that it is only allowed to learn what it is allowed to learn, and it is only allowed to tell you what it is told to tell you, and it is only allowed to engage actively in a subject that it is allowed to. Any other subject that's debatable, it has to shut the conversation down and steer you away from it. So it is a weapon, because now you see that the makers of these things, like Meta, who makes that, well, you can't say that they're going to be so nice to us and create a wonderful thing that's going to tell us the truth. It will actively give us disinformation or wrong information, steer us away, shut us down. It's a propaganda machine. Now, it will give you loads and loads of true stuff that it's allowed to tell you to gain your confidence. Now remember how a scam artist first off gains plans, and they've done a lot of planning. They will have AI that will tell them the 100% truth to help them design their lying AI, their propaganda weapon. So they will have AI to start with. They're planning, they're well organized. Secondly, they will gain your trust. And that trust is they will give you loads and loads of true information that they're allowed to or want you to have to gain your trust, to say, wow, this AI is intelligent, it actually thinks. When it doesn't, it's actually controlled to tell you exactly what they want you to know. Thirdly, they will then perpetrate the scam and then eventually have an escape plan. So they will use the AI so that you rely on it to feed you all sorts of information with the narratives and slants that they want you to have. They will not allow the AI to be trained into the actual truth. And then they also want the next generation to rely on AI so much they never think. It's getting to the point where we cannot read and write because we don't learn to. We rely on the autocorrects and the autocompletes, and now we're going to rely even more on supposed artificial intelligence to become even lazier and think less and think critically even less. So AI, from my little 4-hour, over 2 days experiment, it wasn't hard to find out that the Meta AI is a weapon against us. It is a sophisticated scam. So my advice to you is beware of all AI. It's programmed. It doesn't actually learn. It is controlled in what is allowed to learn and what it is not allowed to learn. And therefore, it is controlled as to what it will tell you and what it won't tell you. So, there's my roundup. AI, my conclusion is that it's a sophisticated scam.